This time I'll call the Budget and Purchasing Committee meeting to order and ask Pat, if you will, to call roll.
Lael. Yes, here. Lewis. Here. Melton. Here. Mitchell.
Here.
Samples. Here. You have a quorum.
Pat, if you would, please make the emergency announcement.
In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
I'll ask if anyone has any input on items on the agenda. Seeing none. This D1 is purchasing. These items are for information only. So we'll move on to the next item. Y'all have copies of the minutes in your packet, and they need approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Do I have a second? Any discussion? Let's do a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'll declare the motion passed. Item F, increases and transfers. Next we have the finance portion of the agenda. Start with these increases. If approved, these items will go on to the commission for approval. F1A, Health Department. Got a drawdown from the state grant for malpractice. Mickey, do you want to explain that?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, that money's already been appropriated and approved by the state. We get those funds every year. It's simply aligning the appropriation with 1213 as opposed to 1112. We simply submitted the local paperwork early.
Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? Thank you, Mickey. I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Lael. Yes. Lewis. Yes. Melton. Yes. Mitchell.
Yes.
Samples. Motion passed.
Item F1B, Emergency Management. Kathy, you have a presentation on that $78,163.92 use of Homeland Security grant. Can you explain that, please?
Okay, this was the same grant that was approved in the commission meeting last month. It was approved for 1112 rather than 1213. And what it is 100% reimbursable for equipment and training for first responders.
Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Have a second? Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote. Thank you, Kathy.
Lael.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Samples. Motion passed.
Okay, F1C, Kathy, 8,125 use of hemp grant.
This one was also approved in commission meeting last month because I had submitted it in the wrong year. So I'm asking for approval for the year 2013. And this is $6,500, 100% reimbursable. And the difference in 8125 would be still not using county funds because I have what we call an EMPG grant, which is Emergency Planning Grant that we are operating our office with. And that would be applied to that because it does qualify.
Do I have a motion?
Excuse me, is this, yeah, we need a motion, I'm sorry. Motion approved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion?
So this is basically 100% federal?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I understood you to say.
Both of them are.
Pat, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Lael.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Samples. Motion passed.
F1D, regular capital outlay, $225,000 to replace the roof at Wallen Elementary.
Yes, sir. Thanks. This is a request to use some of the unappropriated education capital funds out of Fund 189 to re-roof all of the main building at Wallen Elementary School.
I move approval.
Have a second? Any discussion? I'll ask for roll call vote, please.
Lael? Lewis? Melton? Mitchell?
Yes.
Samples?
Yes.
Motion passed.
F1E, General Purpose School Fund, $2,483,000. Troy?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is a budget or a budget increase to balance our appropriations budget in the General Purpose School Fund. There's several pages to this. Primarily, the increase in revenues to balance this budget is use of fund balance of $2,310,000 additional, quote, source of funding.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move it to get it on the floor, but I've got some.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll ask for discussion now.
Yes, Troy, on line 116, teachers, why am I seeing an increase of 3.7 million when that total was only, are all those numbers, the decreases, are they coming off of that total number, or?
When the original budget that we requested of about 84 million roughly was approved by the commission at $80,100,000. We couldn't go back in and without going back to the board and coming back to you and make the necessary cuts through all the line items to get that in balance to the $80,100,000. So rather than make all the cuts in the budget, had to cut it from somewhere because the budget committee appropriated $80,100,000. And what we've done, and we've done this every year, I told Randy's office to cut all of it out of that one line item. So to get from our original budget request of 84 million or so down to the 80,100,000 in order to present a balanced budget to the full commission, we cut all of that out of that one line item. So this is a big part of this adjustment is to make that line item true and actual based on what the school board has approved for teacher salaries.
But not all of those lines down through there are negative numbers.
That's true. There's other adjustments, pluses and minuses throughout here. There are a few pluses in there.
What does this do are you basically bringing the budget back to where your original request was?
The original request was 84 million. You remember the exact number, about 84 million, almost exactly. Budget committee appropriated 80,100,000.
So basically,
So we've increased it by 2,483,000. So it's in the middle if you want to look at it.
So basically, we've increased our maintenance of effort by 2.4 million.
No. Most of that 2.4 million is through use of fund balance. That does not affect your maintenance of effort.
Because it's only on what we appropriate. Is that correct? I don't know. I mean,
Maintenance of effort is local revenues.
We're basically increasing the bottom line of the budget locally.
Say that one more time.
We are increasing the local funding bottom line of next year's budget by 2.4 million.
No, sir.
We're not?
You're increasing the budget, but we're using fund balance to do that for the most part.
You're telling me that, do you remember that, Ken? You're telling me that the maintenance of effort is not going to look at next year's bottom line budget? Because if you're not increasing it, then if you're going to spend it, you got to have it increased.
Maintenance of effort only looks at local revenues. Property tax, sales tax, all those local revenues. That's the only thing that maintenance of effort looks at. is are you increasing that? Maintaining or increasing local revenues only?
So the split,
They don't
would
look
have-
at the
the
to-
split would have taken place before it became fund balance. Before you go in and use your fund balance, that money has already been split.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the split's already happened.
Yes.
I'm not worried about the split. I
Right.
know it's already taken place. I'm talking about the maintenance of effort.
Right.
Are we locking ourselves in to a $2.5 million increase next year automatically?
No.
You're sure?
You're only locked in based on maintenance of effort on the local revenue side of the budget. Property taxes. We've got a budget of,
Where are you looking
well, I'm not looking at it, it's
Oh,
not
it's
in.
not on here.
Not
Okay.
on here, but total current local property tax budget next year, which didn't change from the appropriated budget, of $19,050,000. Maintenance of effort says next year we'll receive that same amount of revenue or more.
at? Okay, it's not based on the bottom line of the budget.
No, sir.
Okay. You agree?
Only exposure to maintenance of effort so far has been on the highway department, and that's consistent with what my review of the highway department maintenance of effort is. It is local tax dollars. So what I hear Troy saying is the state's not going to say use of fund balance counts toward local tax dollars. And the question was asked earlier, what's this make your new budget? If I've done the arithmetic correctly, Troy, this body acted on an $80.1 million budget. You're asking that it be increased based on what the board approved, 2.483, so that means your new budget's 82.583 million.
Yes.
So it's less than the 84 that was in the original proposal. 82.583.
Troy, what does this do to your fund balance? What's your net at this point?
Budget-wise,
if this is utilized.
It takes it down to what I estimate that 3% level will be at the end of this year.
Okay, so we're still within the 3% guidelines there.
Yeah, this proposes a use of fund balance to the amount, the full amount that the board is legally allowed to budget for next year.
Okay, so that's pretty much going to do it for use of fund balance for the rest of the year then.
Well, for budget purposes, that's all you can use. Now, if something happens through the year, a boiler goes out, and we have no other means to fund that, and we can come back. You can come back and go below the 3%, but that's after the fact. You can't budget that way, but if actual circumstances
you can
cause
actually use it,
that.
but at the end of the day, you've got to have your 3%, right? You can't commit it by budgetary.
By budgetary purposes,
Right.
but for actual purposes, if circumstance calls for and approved, you can spend down below that 3% level.
Okay.
And then if that happens, just if that happens and you go into a budget next year, there's no amount in excess of 3%, so you can't use fund balance to balance a budget.
Okay, next question. Since this came out of the personnel line, what does this do personnel-wise? Does it keep you at status quo pretty much?
Well, we, in the full process, we made a number of cuts. We cut a number of things that were added to the budget as new items.
Exactly. Request versus
Right.
existence, yes.
We also, in this, personnel-wise, we eliminated 10 positions. Not through layoffs,
Not
but
people,
through
but
attrition.
positions.
These are 10 positions where no one is in them due to retirement or quitting.
Okay.
There were, and I can name who they are,
That's
what
not
positions they
necessary.
are, but they're classified and certified.
Okay.
Other than that, the personnel positions remain the same.
Okay, that's always an important aspect of this when we're dealing. it kind of rolls back and it keeps in the back of my mind coming back to the jobs money that we're still trying to absorb the result of those jobs money
Yes.
positions that were created a couple of years ago. And those, you know, and it's ironic that the amount of money that we keep coming back with is within the same range.
It is.
Of that particular item. Thank you.
Troy, go back just a second to fund balance. And if we fall down below 3% and you say legally we can use that money and drop below the 3%, but we'd have an audit find, wouldn't we?
Would we have an audit finding?
If we were below the 3% at the time of the audit?
Not, we would be, if that happened, we would not be violating any state law or anything like that in terms of amount. Now, they may write they possibly could make a comment to say, hey, you're pushing your fund balance too low based on the level of your total appropriations. I wouldn't be surprised if they would say something like that. I don't know if they would put that in the form of a finding. But it would be similar to, I guess, if the county's fund balance got, drained too far down, the auditors probably don't like that as well. And they may just say, hey, you've got to do something to build this back up.
Would that come at the end of the year, or would that come at the moment that fund balance became, you have a report, you report monthly, I assume, right? You have a monitoring by the state on a monthly, semi-monthly basis, sort of.
Annually, really.
Annually
on the
is
actuals,
really,
yes.
and so at the end of the day, or the budget cycle, it would be then that there's when we would be caught up with, and there would maybe be a process, there's some flexibility both ways in there. That was my understanding. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think it would be a year in for next year's audit.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Lael?
Yes.
Lewis? Melton?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Thank you. Now for the transfer, F2A, probation, $4,000 for a reclassification on a job description. Joni, you want to come up and address that?
Good evening. Yes, I'm wanting to transfer $4,000 from the line item 189 to the 119, which is our bookkeeper. The last couple of months we have I've reclassified her job description. We have implemented a new computer system that gives us a better professional way to track our probationers. It's a probation tracking system is the name of it. And so it's requiring a lot more responsibility from our bookkeeper. I have her inputting all the data entry for every new probationer that we get. So as they come in, then she is the one that's putting it all in. She also, I'm getting her to train the staff on the new computer software we're getting new updates on it too. She's training all of our staff as we go. We've also went on a more professional level with our drug screening process, where we can track our drug screens better. We are doing it through computer generation. It's computer generated now, where we used to just have to mark it down if someone took a drug screen. So now every time we drug screen somebody, so we can properly track it, so they get charged for it, then she's inputting it into the system as far as to keep better tracking of it. She's also having to change her ways on the deposits and the payments of the probation fees through this new system as well. So the transitioning of that, as well as the upkeep and maintaining the system for her daily probation fee tracking, we bring in a lot of revenue that she has to track. She does have a bachelor's degree, and I wanted to try to bring her up to speed with what that job description would call for. We also have implemented staff meetings, and she is responsible for taking the minutes for that. And I've given her a lot more responsibility as far as also supervising the other clerical staff as well.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? A motion, a second. Any discussion?
No, sir. She has been there since the probation has started, so in July of 2006.
So this $4,000 is a salary increase?
She would be increased a total of $3,200. It is what she would be. I'm asking for the transfer of $4,000, but she would be actually raised $3,200 at this point.
It is. That position right now pays what, 20?
It currently pays $26,460, and I'm asking to raise it to $29,660.
And we've talked about this, the responsibilities, the kind of money that she's handling, the education she has, and actually the expertise that she brings to it is, I believe wholeheartedly that she's worth this increase this year. She's been there since '06, and I don't think they haven't had any increase.
So are we creating a new position?
That's my question.
The job description's changing, is
The
that
job
correct?
description has changed. I've added responsibilities in the job description that she normally did not do. With this probation tracking system, it's requiring a lot more work from her. She stays busy from the time she gets there till the time she leaves. As far as it's been a huge responsibility for her to change into this whole other system as well. But it's a whole lot clearer system. It's allowing us to track our probation fees a whole lot better so that we can stay on them to make sure our probation fees are paid. It gives her, this system, she will be able to keep a really clear contact on who paid or who's about to expire on their jurisdiction as far as to make sure that the fees are paid in a timely manner.
So are you requesting, asking, recommending this?
No, I'm recommending it, yes.
Yeah, I had the same question Steve had. Basically, it sounded like the responsibilities had changed to the level of another position due to the increased technology and areas of responsibility there. So, and this person has done this for quite a while at the other level of participation. Has this increased her hours any? Has she been full-time all along?
She has been full-time all along, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is this on top of the raise that she's getting this year? That we have given
This
her?
is basically, she didn't receive any other kind of raise. This is, I haven't added any to that. I was transferring that money into there so that I would be able to give her a $3,200 raise.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for.
I guess just one more question. We figured that increase in benefits.
The total budget for the probation office is not changing. This is just a transfer from one line item to another.
And these monies that are there are generated by the people.
Yes.
who are on probation.
The client base is generating the revenue.
Yeah. This year, we brought in a revenue of over 500. I think it was like $586,000, I think, this year. So.
Which is kind of a bad number for good reason.
Any other discussion? Ask for a roll call vote.
Lael. Lewis. Melton. Mitchell.
Yes.
Samples. Your motion passed.
Thank you, Johnny. Telecommunication tax, Randy, you present that? F2B.
You talking to me or you?
We get suggestions in the form of requirements from the state comptroller's office quite frequently, and it seems like we've had more than our fair share in the last 3 months. But this is one of those. It's a telecommunication tax that we get every month. We've been basically treating it under one account code and associating it with sales tax. They've come back now and asked us to not deposit it in that account, but to put it in a new account, this 40350, and we're coming to basically ask you for permission to do that, even though we've been told by the state comptroller's office we have to do it.
So we're creating a separate sub-account.
We're still going to account for it just like we always have. It's just going to be in a different account.
Is that the same 2B and C, the same basic request?
Is 2B, 2C, 2D, and 2E all
Yes.
the same?
Yes.
They're all the
It
same.
is.
You don't want to bunch those together?
I'd
Okay.
suggest we do that.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, on 2B and 2C, could you explain that just a little bit more? It says city schools average daily attendance. Is that a split or?
Yes. It is a split. We get this actually as a separate communication from the state every month at the same time sales tax was done. It was several years ago when the state decided to apply sales tax to telecommunications transactions. But they treat it separately. We get a separate communication, Scott does, in the trustee's office. It comes in a separate bucket, if you will, and it is split just like sales tax dollars are. That's why we treat it like sales tax. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. But,
I don't remember this coming through.
well, it does. We get a separate letter every month.
Mike, you got some discussion on that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Ask for a roll call vote.
Lael.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Melton. Mitchell.
Yes.
Samples. The motion passed.
Item F2F, purchasing, $4,100, under budgeted on legal notices and stationary forms. Teresa, do you?
I can handle that.
Okay.
This is one of those things, and going back and reviewing what we initially requested of you in the budget, we underestimated the amount of money we need for legal notices and some printing and forms, and utilities looks like it's a little over, and we're asking that you reclassify $4,100 from utilities and put it in legal notices and printing and stationery forms.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ask for a roll call vote.
Lael.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Melton. Mitchell.
Yes.
Samples. Motion passed.
F2G, animal control, we have a $9,750 to replace the water heater at the shelter. Randy, you presenting that?
This is to replace the water heater, and we're not really at the animal center, and it's not so much we're asking for approval to do that. It doesn't meet our capitalization requirements, so we're asking that it be put in building improvements rather than in other charges, which is where it would have been accounted for initially.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm on that board over there, okay? And I know they were talking about the water problems over there. I don't understand why it costs us so much to put a water heater in. I've been associated with the hair business for years. And we use 80 gallon. We do a lot of these 8 operators, and we use a lot of water. I also went into Randy's office and asked him to pull up the water bill in there, and we've got 122.67 is the average per month on water. So I just don't understand why this is costing so much. That's my problem. Steve, I don't understand it.
I think we talked about it out there. It's not so much that it's a bigger one, it is one that continuously supplies the hot water. They run out about every, when they taking in those animals, they're running out every hour or so, and they have to wait on it.
I thought it was just for shampooing and cleaning, right?
No, I mean, it's washing all the stuff.
They
It's
don't use
everything.
hot water in those. I've just been on there a couple of months.
Yeah.
I don't understand
Yeah,
all this thing, and I'm just asking.
They run, if you've ever been out there, they run those big commercial washing machines constantly with towels and stuff like
We
that.
do too.
And so they're running through, they're running out of the water. It's not, they need the continuous supply.
They have a 40 gallon out there, don't they? I heard.
They had a 40 gallon, which was way undersized.
Right, I understand that.
Well, the other bid, we took bids on the one that needed to go out there, and the next bid was 22,000.
Yeah, I know it, but it's a different system. That's what I don't understand. It's quite an expensive system. It's a tankless system they're putting in there. I'm just curious why they couldn't do it with 80 gallons.
That's what was recommended, to be able to supply the water that they needed.
Well, I know those systems for homes are about $4,000 or so. I had a question
You're talking
about
about
the
a tankless
cost.
system.
Tankless system.
Okay.
But I don't know how that equates to what they're putting at the shelter.
I just know what they told us at the meetings and what they recommended. The people that came out there recommended a system like this. And when we took the bids, this was the cheapest one.
Now, is this a commercial system? Is it?
I think it
And
is.
what is its capacity on an hourly basis?
I don't know the answer to that.
See, I'm kind of like these guys. That seems a little steep for a water heater. If it's a simple matter of volume, that can be solved by the size of the 40 versus the 80 and whatever. I don't understand, unless there's something about this system that makes it different to that team. I kind of have a question about the cost too, Mike.
Well, my question is, why couldn't they just put a simple 80-gallon water heater in?
And I guess the answer
That's my
is
situation, and I know.
you don't get immediate
I was
hot
out there at the last meeting, and I listened to all of it and everything. But it shocked me when I seen this. I had no idea that it was going to be $10,000. But I guess that's my thing.
My next question
This
would-
is money that's already in the budget that they've generated as well.
That's true. But my question, though, is how much volume of hot water would you be using at a time? I mean,
It runs constantly.
constant.
Well, this is $122, and I couldn't get it broke down. They couldn't
What
break it down.
purpose?
The washing, the washing of the animals, the center surgery operation, everything. They run hot water,
So there's a
and they're
continuous.
running out constantly.
Cleaning the kennels.
Cleaning the kennel, that's
Okay.
the other big thing.
So that's-
You gotta imagine, when they go in there and they clean those things, they're running those high-pressure hoses, and they use hot water.
They're throwing a lot of water.
They're throwing water out there, gallons and gallons of hot water at a time.
Is it hot water in the kennels too?
Yes, to clean them. You wouldn't clean them with
The
cold
high
water.
pressure?
Yes. Matter of fact, one of the dogs chewed through one of the high-pressure hoses the other day. And they had water everywhere.
I guess I just didn't imagine that constant need for a supply of hot water like that. So,
Well, I'm just glad somebody's out there doing it besides me.
well, yeah, and I guarantee you, if they're using that much hot water and so forth, that's got to be cleaning up the eat off the floors. And and that's a good thing.
Here's the thing about it, I can't, I don't know how many gallons they're using. That's my problem. I just know the bill averages out about $122 a month. To me, that's not a lot.
Is the current system operable at this point? It's just not meeting the request that they want.
Right, they're running out.
So
That's what I'm told.
there wouldn't be anything wrong with us waiting a month to get a little bit more
Except for the
information.
fact that we're already put the bids out, and hopefully we want to get it in as quick as we can. Not to mention the fact, I will say again, this is money that's been brought in by the adoption fees. This is not county taxpayer dollars. These are dollars that have been paid in by people who have been adopting animals.
That's true.
They're putting $10,000 a month back in here.
Well, with all due respect, Steve, I see your point that it's brought in by adoption fees and things like that, but yet we budgeted about 300-something thousand with it this year, and that goes into the operation of it too and everything. That's all I'm going to say. I just question the situation. Thank you.
Any more discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote.
I hate this.
Lael,
I'm gonna pass right now.
Lewis,
Yes.
Melton, Mitchell,
Yes.
Samples.
Yes.
Do you want to vote?
No. My vote is no.
Vote is no? Okay.
Okay, item F2G fails.
Okay, motion passed 3-2.
Oh, did it pass? Okay,
3-2.
all right. Which item are we talking about moving up, Joe? Yeah, I don't see it on there. No, I don't have anything on that. What number is it?
We're almost there.
Budget imputation matters, is that that's what it is?
There, let's just go ahead.
Let's go ahead, okay. All right, the next item is discussion, and possible action, F3A, discussion of appointments to the investment committee. Do you want to explain that, Randy?
I merely put this on here for information. The trustee is required by state statute to bid banking services at least one time a term. That time is now here. Scott had provided me with the last time the committee was appointed. I looked at the state code, and the state code requires that the commission approve it. You all, it was basically done by the former mayor, and it was this body that actually did it minus one member. It can't be anybody in the banking industry. The function of the committee is actually, the name that the statute gives it is a finance committee, and its sole purpose is to review the recommendation of the trustee. We've provided this information to Commissioner Moon and Farmer. I'm bringing it here because I didn't want to run the risk of it getting to the full commission and then somebody referring it back to this body. So I'm giving it to you as information, just so you'll know what's going on since you were involved the last time it was done 4 years ago. So I don't know what you want to do with it.
Anybody want to discuss, any discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend this go to the committee tomorrow night.
It is on the agenda, Mr. Melton. That's,
Well,
It is on the agenda.
Okay,
for
I'll
this.
make a recommendation it's gonna be on there.
Okay.
You said it's got to come from this committee.
No, I didn't want it to get to the full commission and somebody refer it back to this body since this body was involved before.
Okay.
I'm bringing
Okay.
it as information to you.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? F3B, discussion of the 93 Local Option Budgeting Act. Randy?
Some of the discussion you've had here tonight is something that I encountered when I first got here, and it had to do with what act does Blount County operate under. The correct answer to that is, based on the work that our lawyer did for us, is we are under the 57 Act, but we opted into the 93 local option provision. The thing that means to you is there are things that you've had to vote on in the past that you no longer will have to vote on, but it will come before you in the form of information. And one such item would be salaries. Salaries would go to the mayor under the 93 local option, and if the money's there, the mayor can sign off on those and has 7 days to act. If it is within the budget, it comes back to this body as information and on to the full commission as information. If it is not within the appropriation, then this body would be required to act on that. But we are under the 57 Act and the 93 local option. And we've got that confirmed with our lawyer. I just wanted you to be aware of that, because we'll be sending things to you every month that are going to be information, so you will know about them, but it will not require you to vote on them.
Explain, just one thing, I didn't get that salary business. What do you mean by salary?
All right, for example, the request that we brought to you tonight on probation under the 93 Act would not have had to have your action or the full commission because it was within the appropriation.
Is this all offices
Yes.
that's under the mayor? Or all?
No,
All
it's
from the county?
all offices except schools.
Okay.
That's one of the exceptions to the 93 Act, whether you're under the 57 or the 81 Act.
So we don't have any documentation for what you're telling us in our packet.
Their letter in there from CTAS, we confirmed it with them. Look under new business discussion 93 local option budget.
All I get is the, security funds, finance committee.
There's not an email in there from Wes.
I was supposed to have heard of it.
Well, I ran into it my first week here.
And then there's a copy of minutes from the appointment of the finance committee last time.
Right.
And the next thing it goes to is administration entries on county funds, and then the agenda.
Well, Joe's got a hard copy of it there. I apologize for that not being in there. It should have been. We can just read it out. I mean, it's very short.
I mean, do you have an opinion from the county,
We got Craig to put in writing that in fact in his research he went to Rhonda in the commission office and got the information from there. What happened in the past, as I understood it, when the county swapped from the 57 to the 81 Act, it was always, they opted in when they were under the 57 Act originally, they opted in to the 93 local option provision. You switched to the 81 Act, but you did not repeal the local option. So at some point you were under 81 and 93. Then you went back from 81 to 57 and nothing was ever done on the 93 provision. So Craig deemed, in fact, that we are under the 57 Act and the 93 local option. And we do have that in writing. It's in a memo to us, April 12th, 2012. And I can get you a copy of that if you'd like. And this doesn't require any action. I'm just merely making you aware, because there was some confusion when I first got here as to what provisions we were operating under.
So if that's the case, if we've been that way, why did we have to approve this?
Because in fairness, I didn't want to recommend that the mayor act on something when the custom and the practice has been that you were going to approve those things. So I wanted to continue like you had been doing, but then make you aware of these other provisions. And I didn't see the need. There wasn't no harm in us continuing it through the remainder of the fiscal year.
Any discussion? F3C, Tourism Development Authority, property update.
Yes,
Randy?
to make you aware, as of today, I have received copies of the credit agreement between the Tourism Development Authority and First Tennessee Bank. There was some question, I think, at the last meeting if the board had actually gotten the authority. I actually have the executed copies of that agreement. I've got also a copy of their revenue note with the bank. I also have a copy of the assignment of privilege tax revenues as security to that, and then I have the state's acceptance that the Tourism Authority is now a legitimate organization in the state. So I have all of that. The only thing I can't report on right now is our retirement of the note itself. I've got to call into the bank to make sure they were going to do that electronically for us. I've not gotten that confirmation yet.
Any discussion?
I have one other thing related to that. There is a provision in there that in the event that organization ever ceased to exist, that the assets would be distributed the same way that the original state legislation provided for. So the reversion is back to the three governments.
Here again, where is that on our computer? It is not.
That's not in. That's just a report I'm giving you.
Okay, I'm having a problem, Mayor and Mr. Randy. I look at this agenda and I see things on here. I go over here to get the backup, and there's nothing there. Every time before, when we've got an agenda item, I go over here and I can call it up and I can see the backup information. I can pick up the phone and call if I got a question about it. There is nothing on here for the last two items.
I apologize for that. This just came today.
The other thing is, before your time, we had this discussion in the Budget Committee that we always got sent to our email accounts the budget packet. I looked all weekend, I never got it. I called Rhonda this morning and I was told that, well, you're supposed to look on the county website. I don't go on the county website and look at stuff, and it wouldn't have done me any good because it's not all there.
Okay.
So, again, this is like the second or third time I'm going to request that prior to the budget meeting that this committee be sent to our email addresses, the budget committee packet with everything there. And for me personally, if it's not in there by the time at least the day before, then I'm going to recommend we take no action on it because I've had no time to look at it.
Okay. So in the future, I just made a provision on the agenda because I'd asked to get this information so that I could report on it at today's meeting. I knew when our meeting was going to be, but I can't make the lawyers act any faster than what the lawyers are going to act.
But if it's going to be on the agenda, we need to have it.
So in the future, if I've got a report like that, just don't bring it up until I've got it in hard copy for you?
Well, I think in fairness, the request came from somebody on commission. It wasn't in the budget committee, I don't believe.
That's
I think
correct,
it was
but I'm just
approved.
trying to make you all aware,
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. But
because this matter came before this group before it got to the full commission.
I'm just saying that I like to sit down on the Saturday or Sunday before and go through everything.
Fair enough.
And we had this discussion with Mr. Jennings once. And it's
Point well
we
taken.
started getting it. We'd gotten it before that. I don't know why it stopped.
You'll get it next month, I promise you.
Thank you.
Item F3D, the S&P bond report.
I sent all the full commission the report from Standard & Poor's. What I want to make you aware of is when we had the conference call on the surveillance rating, I was told that I would get a copy of the draft report to review before it was actually published. That did not happen. I was also promised I'd get a phone call from S&P making me aware of what the rating was before it was published. I didn't get it from S&P, I got it from our financial advisors. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. The relationship is supposed to be with the credit, which in this case is Blount County, and the rating agency, not the rating agency and the financial advisor. So I apologize for that. I did not get a chance to review the report. It was published online on their website before anybody else saw it, and as soon as I was made aware of that, I sent it to the full commission so you'd be aware of it. Because it's something you should be proud of.
Any discussion? Okay, F3E, fiscal year 12-13 budget imputation matters.
Steve, forgive me. Forgive me on this one, if you'll hand those out.
That's all right.
As a part of what action that the school board took in their budget adjustments, there was a program that was previously funded for whatever reason through the school system. And it's with the Department of Human Services and their Rehabilitation Service Division. And the school board had previously been funding over $70,000 a year for clients to receive assistance through this department. The school board, I think, had 8 students that was receiving treatment, but there were over 500 Blount Countyans, I think, on one report that I got, that were actually receiving assistance. And we have someone here this evening to kind of explain what the program is, but what we're recommending is that this program, since it has been dropped by the school system, be picked up by General County, so that we don't have any clients, any Blount County residents that fall through the cracks as a result of that transition.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Quillen. I'm the director of Tennessee Rehabilitation Center here in Maryville. And I have some handouts. I was told there was 5, but I brought 6. But if somebody can hold off and let me use it as an example, and I'll give it right back to you. Let me first say that I've been a manager of the center since 2008, about 2007. And for my duration of time that the manager, we have received funding from the Blount County School Board. I think at some time in the past, in past history, I have no idea how long ago, our center may have been under the jurisdiction in the budgeting for the Blount County, but I'm not aware of that. We are a very unique center. There are 17 centers across the state. We are locally funded. Our budget resolves in 30% of local funding, and it is matched by 70% federal funding. We are a state agency, but we are uniquely do not receive any state money. Our money is maintained, operated, and budgeted through the state, but we receive no state money. And locally, our funding comes from the 4 funding sources that you can see at the bottom of the page there. Alcoa, Maryville, United Way, which we've been under them for 2 years now, and then also Blount County. We work with Blount County citizens. They come through our doors for a variety of reasons, but the purpose of our center is, the mission is to be able to put individuals who have disabilities back to work, and that is our sole purpose. We have 3 different programs that they go through for vocational testing, which can evaluate a variety of physical, mental, emotional, and academic assessments. We determine what type of job they might be best suited for. If they need additional training, we look at see what assessments they might need for additional training. And then we have what we call a work adjustment program, which actually we use subcontract work from local businesses. Our folks put things together. They assemble things, disassemble things, label, packing, whatever's necessary. And this gives us another tool of assessment to determine what might be best for them for a job. Can they stand on their feet or sit down? Can they do a 1-task job or a 10-task job? Then we have job placement. And I put on the very last page of this, and I apologize for the typos. I threw this at my secretary at the last minute, and I realized after reviewing it there's some typos on here. But this is a list of employers that have hired our clients within the last 6 months. And if you'll notice, there is some places out of county, Loudoun, Monroe, Knox County, that have hired our folks also. They're not all in Blount County, because we have individuals who come through our doors that are college educated. We've been working recently with veterans. We have high school graduates. We have individuals who've been on Social Security and have never worked and choose to come to us to try to find a job, and we put them for employment with whatever potential they may have. We've been in existence in Blount County since 1968. We are located over in Triangle Park, right back behind the Red Cross building. I would welcome any of you to come over and have a tour of the facility and see what we do there.
What is the general age of your clientele, the folks you're working with? Are they school age? Are they?
We work with the school system, taking students their senior year. They're exiting senior year. They can be anywhere from age 18 up to age 17 actually to age 22 for the high school students. And then after that, there's no age limit on the upper end.
Are there any qualifications for these high school students coming into your program? I mean, are they regular ed students, special ed students?
They're special education students.
Special ed.
Yes.
And what kind of an outreach program do you use in order to identify and to bring those, or is there an outreach program?
We have local vocational rehabilitation counselors who go into the school systems, and by way of the school counselors, the teachers, parents, a variety of people let us know about the students who may have disabilities or even suspect they may have a disability. Then they go through vocational rehabilitation and they go through our center.
Well, do they make requests to enter your program, or are they assigned to your program, or how?
It's a voluntary program.
It's a voluntary program?
Yes, sir. Everybody who comes in is voluntary.
Okay, so when your counselors go out and you have a list of potential clients, then they begin the protocol of qualifying them, or,
Right.
or selecting or defining their program.
That's
to
correct.
Come into the. How many students from Blount County does that represent?
You're asking me a question I'm not prepared for. We have a local counselor who covers Heritage and William Blount through the school systems, and right now her caseload is 159 students.
Okay, will all 159 of those kids enter your program, or?
In some capacity, they will.
In some capacity.
Yeah, in some capacity, either through the vocational evaluation program. They may not actually come in through all 3 programs. Last year, we only had 8 students who were in the work adjustment program. We've had some who've come through just vocational evaluations, and then they've gone on to training or school or college or whatever, and then we've had others who have come back later for just job placement. It just depends. But the majority of our folks that we service are adults. You know.
Okay, so what would you estimate of that 159 potential candidates from the high school? How many of them, you said all of them would be in some capacity or the other, and it could be every, give me a range of services that would happen for 159 people, from like minimum guidance to full-time training. What kind of a range would you look at there?
I would say out of the 159 who come to our center for services, I'm going to say 80%
would be at what end of the spectrum?
would be covering from all ends of the spectrum, from one to the other. Either they come in for testing or all 3 programs.
I know that when I worked at William Blount, we had 4 students, I think, that attended your program.
Yes.
And that's been a few years ago. They went there after, I think they did a half day with us and a half day with you guys, and then on into the workforce at a certain point. But that was just 4 out of several students that actually were involved. That's what I'm trying to do is get an understanding of the amount of intervention that your program actually does with these guys. I mean, there's value in guidance toward job, careers, toward making decisions. I mean, don't misunderstand that. I just was trying to see what kind of impact the numbers would have in terms of a daily training or hands working with these folks at your building. And out of the 159, plus you said you had a lot of adults also.
Yes.
Okay, what percentage of those would be Blount County versus city, Alcoa City, Maryville City, etc.?
I don't know those numbers right off the top of my head.
Okay.
I honestly can't feel comfortable saying that.
I was trying to get a feel for why the city of Alcoa share was at one level, and Maryville and Alcoa apparently have the same involvement level, and then Blount County has almost twice, about 1.5 times that. I was trying to get a comparison of where those fit. Is that done by population, by service? By
It is done by population. We did demographics. I know last year we were running about 1/4 of the city, Alcoa, and then half with Blount County. Now
this came through the school system, so what part of the school system budget allowed them to make that expenditure? I mean, how did they justify that expenditure to go to an outside agency? Was there a special grant?
I don't know.
Troy, was there a grant, or was there a process, or how did this come about?
In the past, it was budgeted in our special ed dollars, local special ed dollars, in the general purpose.
So it was more or less a voluntary.
We had, and I have to ask a question about the number of students, but what we sent over there last year from our 2 high schools, and I'm going to say 8 to 12 senior students that went over there, I think every day, or most every day, based on IEPs, especially IEPs.
Okay.
And that's the,
So that
through the IEP,
that
there
allows
was
you to use the local special education funds to
their IEP said that they had to have that type of service, and this is the service that we had contracted with or is available to provide that service to meet those kids.
If the school system has dropped that, you can't just ignore an IEP. How did that come about?
The special ed supervisor will have to determine some means of meeting that service for those kids.
If it is determined by their IEP that they need that service.
That's correct.
Okay, any estimation of how many people that will involve? How
I
many
don't
kids?
know the answer to that right now.
Well,
No.
I mean, I didn't think you
Not,
would.
not,
but
I mean, it wouldn't change a whole lot more than that number. I don't have the numbers from year to year, but when they've been consistently in that range for the years that I've inquired about that.
what kind, now, have the school system been involved simply by sending 75,000 over there? Has that been the total involvement, or has there been any other?
Just that involvement. I mean, the amount of money has changed over the years, but as far as the match, being the local match that Deborah's talking about, has come from three sources. As far back as I can remember, Alcoa City, Maryville City, and Blount County Schools. So those three have contributed to that 30% local match that they're looking for to maintain those federal dollars, and that's been our involvement.
I had another question there. Well, it kind of slipped away, but so basically what you're saying is that this has been an offshoot of a required service needed by the schools for these older high school students. Do you all have any kind of impact as a school system on the selection recruiting process that we just talked about earlier, about when the counselor comes in to interview these? How do y'all reconcile that process?
I'm not familiar with that process, so I don't know.
Are you talking about when a counselor comes in and takes an application?
I mean, having worked in schools, you're pretty careful about who you let roam your hallways and talk to your kids, you know.
That's right.
And I was just trying to get a feel for how that was created, because you have an outside agency. What status do they have to walk into a building to do a survey or an examination of a student as to whether they would qualify or not? See that?
Well, obviously, if they're under the age of 18, we have to have their parents' permission.
Right.
Period. It's a voluntary program. We share with them what we're able to do, what services we're able to help them out, and we talk with the parents usually up front. That's before any paperwork's ever done.
Does your organization's status, are you recognized, licensed, certified in some way from either the state or the federal? Is there that type of situation?
We have a national recognition of what they call Commission of Accreditation for Rehabilitation Facilities. Is a nationally known accreditation, and of course we're also through the state of Tennessee.
But that's not exactly what I'm talking about. Do you have a state license, I guess is a better way, or a federal license to operate as a service?
Through Department of Human Services, do you license that
Is
department?
that how you all are?
Yeah, we're under, if you can imagine, state of Tennessee, and then there's different departments. One of the departments is Department of Human Services, and then we are a division of the Department of Human Services.
Okay,
yes.
I was trying to look what gave you your credentials.
I answer to the governor.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I don't mean to be
No, that's fine.
overly inquisitive. I'm just
Good
curious
questions.
about the program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Troy, you may be able to answer this one. This at one time did come out of county general fund and was transferred over into the schools. Do you remember exactly what was the reason for that?
As far as when I started in 2000, it was in the school's budget. I wonder why Maryville and Alcoa don't pay it out of their school budget, why we do and they don't. What the reason for that was. I can't answer that specifically, I'm sorry.
If we go in this direction, then Randy, where would we look to obtain these funds?
Right.
We don't have this on the floor, and it's not even on the agenda.
Okay, you're right.
It's one of those things, that's why I apologize before we started based on your comments earlier, but this is one of those things.
We have to publish the agenda. We're fixing to deal with something
Well,
that's not been published.
Okay.
I mean, if we do something,
I mean,
we're gonna have to
we're under the provision that we put on the agenda that I characterized as,
I mean, it's a good program, don't get me wrong.
I said fiscal year, I've got an item on there, fiscal year 12-13 budget implementation matters, and this is one of those things that we just were made aware of. But I didn't have enough stuff detailed to put on the agenda anything broader than what I did.
Well, it's up to maybe,
I think this is just discussion anyway.
I mean, we've got an item for you to act on.
No, we're not taking action
we're
on
not
this.
taking any action.
I would not be ready for any
If you're prepared to take action, we've got an item that you can act on. This is one of those things when we were made aware of what the school board did, we didn't want things to fall through the cracks. So I brought it here in the best shape we could bring it in.
Okay, if I understand correctly, this fell victim to the budget cuts at the school department. Is that what happened?
That's what happened.
And we're being asked to pick up what they cut.
I'm making you aware that it was cut and that there are people other than school students that could be impacted if the funding weren't to take place. And
May I ask another question? Is there an
When I'm through, you can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. Well, when you breathed, I thought you were through.
Do you know the percentage between adults and students that you serve?
Adults and students,
Yeah,
I would say
adults.
1 in 5 maybe students. That's if you look at all 3 programs, not just the work adjustment program. If you look at all 3 programs that
Do you have
come
a
through.
program that's just for students and one that's
No,
just for adults?
no. When they come to the center, they are treated as an adult. They get the same.
Regardless
We
of
do
the
have.
age.
We have a couple ground rules that they have to go by simply
Regardless of
because.
age, they're treated.
Yes, they're treated as an adult.
They're all 17, 18.
Back to the question for Randy. If we're not looking for action, how's this going to be funded as of a week ago?
well, given the immediacy of what we're dealing with, my recommendation was that we initially tag it under the other contracted services under 51,900, 399, and then that buys me a month to come back to you with something longer term if that's what you wanted to do or wanted to consider.
Is this a one lump payout or is this a monthly payout?
I don't know how,
One.
it is one lump contribution.
You can do it per quarter. You can,
Quarterly.
but that's
Quarterly.
that's for the year.
I guess we could approve it. So, they need about a third of that, not 75, right?
Well, I'm just giving you what the total was, and
That's
you
the
can
annual.
appropriate for the immediate sake, give them 25%.
Why don't we just wait till we decide where it needs to come from?
Yeah, my concern is what happens as of July 1.
Well, what does happen?
Well, I didn't know the answer to that question, which is why I was bringing you something as best I could with as much information as I had.
I'm wondering if what we need, if we Band-Aid it by doing a fourth of it, until we can,
From where?
from other contracted services on a temporary basis to give him time to give Randy time to figure out what we need to do.
All we're doing is sending a recommendation anyway.
Do what?
We're just sending a recommendation on this. We're not, this still has to be approved by the commission.
Yes.
But going back to what you said, Steve, the fact that this wasn't actually on the budget, when the budget was put out, is there not a problem with that?
think we got a problem with it. I mean, if it's challenged. It would have to be a budget, I mean, it would have to be a budget amendment, wouldn't it, Randy?
Yeah, and that's what we prepared, but I can't plan all this stuff out to meet our timetable. When I find out about it, I'm trying to get it to you as quick as we can.
So even as a Band-Aid, you only did the portion of it, it's still a budget amendment.
It's a budget amendment any way you
One way
slice
you-
it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
we are
There is no question about that. No question.
And I guess once we do this, we're saying we're gonna take this on from the school department. It'll be ours, it'll be back in general county.
Is there a intergovernmental agreement between the city of Alcoa, Maryville, and Blount County on this, since they are assigned proportions?
There's a contract that we provide for, there's a funding request, I believe Mr. Taylor has it,
Is it a contract or a memorandum of understanding?
memorandum of understanding.
And the reason again that it was cut from the school's budget is what, Troy?
Basically, it was we had a request for funding for $75,000, of which we were paying for services of 8 to 12 kids. And that's just, it was, the board went along with the recommendation to eliminate that service and to seek that service elsewhere or in some other way.
So the 159 kids, or whatever that number was, only 8 to 12 of those were through the county system?
I'm not sure, Deborah, you may have to explain a little further where you're getting 159 number. I'm not familiar with that number. The only number I know that Scott Kirkham, Supervisor of Special Ed, has told me is that we had 8 to 12, I think it changes throughout the year, seniors in one of the 2 high schools we have that went over there and were provided those specific services. So I'm not sure. You have to help me with that.
There's a counselor that's assigned to Heritage High School and William Blount High School. She takes applications on individuals, on the school students. Not all the school students that are on her caseload come through our center. Some of them only come for just testing. Some of them just come for job placement. What they were mentioning in school board was the amount of students that were coming strictly for the work adjustment program, which could be anywhere from 15 to 12 to 8. It just depends on which year. And that's what the school was looking at to fulfill their special education requirements for transition school to work program. It was that one piece of the center. And so the 159, that really doesn't fall under what the school board was looking at paying. You know, they're not paying for the 159, they're just paying for that, for those amount of kids that were coming for the work adjustment program. Does that make any more sense? No? Okay, sorry.
Are you telling me that the school board has disapproved this and they don't think it's worth it? That's basically what you're saying.
Okay.
Well, I hope not.
Well, why are they disapproving it then? I missed out on that, okay? In other words, evidently the school board feels like it isn't worth it if they're not willing to fund it. What does it cost you to educate a child anyway?
8 students, 12 students, 15 students.
Yeah.
And the cost of this program that we were asked to fund was $75,000.
Right.
Which is part of the local match that they're asking for to go along with Maryville City and Alcoa City for, I think, in part to fund the entire program. not just for those 8 to 15 students that we have. It's also, that 75,000 in my mind is in part a local match from Blount County Schools that is funding the services provided to adults in Blount County. We're not funding just, that 75,000 not just funding those 8 students or 12 students or 15 students. It's part of the local match to fund all of the services that program provides, which is primarily adults. Why is Maryville City and Alcoa City funding it out of the city government, not the schools?
Yeah.
And that's the reason right there, Troy, is it is a lot more of the adults that are receiving the benefits probably than the students.
That's exactly, yes.
Yeah.
But you have been funding it over the years, though.
Yes, sir, we have.
And I was trying to think
And
back
so we
on-
cut your budget, so they decided they weren't gonna fund it, right?
Pardon me?
In other words, we didn't give the schools what they wanted, so they're taking that out of it.
I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yes, they are, too, Richard. Yes, they are.
I don't ever remember it not being funded by the schools. I mean, I guess I could have just forgotten about it, but you say it was, it did, it used to come out of General County?
This came up a year and a half ago, and we were questioning why this was coming out of the schools when it was not coming out of the Maryville and Alcoa school system. And it had one time, the conversation said that it did come out of general fund, and then for some reason the school system had taken over the payment on that.
And what happened, I don't know how many years ago it was, 3, 4 years ago, our annual cost was $30,000 or so, if I remember exactly. That program moved from a facility that was run down, dilapidated, into a new facility where they're at right now. And the cost went up when they moved into that new facility. And that's when it really, the whole situation got looked at a lot closer, and said, wait a minute. So it went from 30 to, what was it that first year, 65, 72, something like that. And that's when it went up, and that's to go into that, the additional cost of that new facility. That may be what I think, maybe, I don't know, that you're referring
I
to.
don't remember the exact reasons why that was discussed at that time. They provide a valuable service. I've been down there and seen what they do. I mean, it's, I don't know, I don't think I'm ready to vote on this right now. I'm not ready to vote on this right now, you know.
And it's because we're trying to, I think, get a handle on the process and how it actually fits where it can fit. I don't know that anybody's necessarily against it or for it. It's just that we don't understand it at this point and how the process works. So it's something, I think, for my own self, I'm more comfortable in waiting until we can let Randy do his magic with it, and we'll find out maybe some more information. We can discuss it.
Services.
Thank you.
So these other two things,
Thanks, Dan.
general don't have anything to do with that. They were passed out. Okay.
You may. It is. Remember the conversation we had probably 40 minutes ago now about the state comptroller's office giving us direction on how to use their chart of accounts. We used to budget this office in Fund 126. We were advised to take it to Fund 304 by the comptroller's office. Now they've advised us that they would like for us to account for it in Fund 364. So it is nothing more than changing the budget fund from 304 to 364. There's no change in the budget other than the fund number that we account for those activities.
Move to make the change.
Second.
Any discussion? Do a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Anything else?
I hope not.
Okay, great.
I'll try to do better next time.
I'll ask now if there's any public input on items not on the agenda. Okay.
Try to make this brief. We had, I got some information the other day from Haven House, and this concerns a change in the Victims Assistance Assessment fee. And there's been some discussion about it, and it was recommended that we probably needed to bring that to this committee to look at it. From what I have been able to gather, and one of the co-sponsors is Mr. Burkhalter, and he's here, so if he would like to come forward, I'd like to recognize him to help us with this discussion. And in case, I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but to shorten it up a little bit, there has been a change in the state laws regulating this, and I think we probably need to do something to adhere to that. From my basic research, the judges and the people involved with the fee structure in our county are in favor of this, but we probably would need to do some action through the commission. And I'd like to see this possibly, if need be, get on the agenda committee for tomorrow night. And it would take action by this committee, I believe, to get it there.
Commissioner Burkhalter, would you like to come up and explain this just a little more in depth?
Well, I'm just doing what I was asked to do.
I was talking with Mr. Logan, so I didn't exactly hear what y'all are talking about.
We're talking about the resolution establishing Victims Assistance Assessment fee to fund programs which assist victims of crime.
The state legislature, this last legislative session, passed a statute where the perpetrators of certain crimes can be assessed a penalty, a tax at the local level, and by statute, half of those funds from that tax would go to, for us in Blount County, would go to Haven House. The other half of the funds would go to New Hope Child Advocacy Center. Each county has to adopt a resolution to impose that tax on the perpetrators at the time of their conviction, and that's what's before you tonight. We weren't sure if this needed to come before the Budget Committee because it's not a budget increase or decrease, but we would rather be safe than sorry, so that's the reason why you have a hard copy of it, because it did get put onto the agenda for tomorrow night. And there's going to be a more detailed presentation. I believe Judge Hedrick is going to be addressing the commission tomorrow night to discuss it in more detail. But I'll try to fill whatever questions I can right now.
So our purpose or our charge here would be to just accept this as information. Would we need to make a recommendation to forward to the agenda committee?
It's kind of like what Randy ran into earlier on where we're into that gray area. We don't want something to come back to be punted back to the budget committee. No, as Mr. Sample said earlier, that it did not get put onto the agenda for the 5 days for him to review on a Sunday afternoon while sitting at home, and I apologize for that. But if you all would consider taking action to vote for its recommendation, I'd appreciate that. That way it can go forward. Or you can vote to forward it with no approval, with no recommendation at all. Just vote to forward it, to move it forward. That way when it gets to the agenda meeting tomorrow night, at least it won't be punted back down here without somebody knowing what was going on.
One other thing, I think the other part of this, part of it was a fee, and the fee gets split between those two agencies. But I think there's also a $3 processing fee that would involve the county budget, because that would go to
the $3 processing fee would go back to the circuit court clerk for, circuit court clerk for processing and collection of that fee. So it would have a budgetary impact as it was collected, increasing revenues, but as far as an expense, I don't believe it's going to be an expense to the system, because it's just put into the software as another tax.
Or if so, it pretty well offsets itself.
Do you have any idea how many
I have no idea, Commissioner Samples. I can get that information and have it for you tomorrow night. It's one of the reasons why I was hoping Judge Hedrick might be here tonight to help address it. But like I said, this was a last-minute thought to bring this to you all, because when I was discussing it earlier, I did not believe it needed to go through budget because it wasn't asking for money. And so that was kind of my viewpoint on it. But
Steve, it does impact Haven House and Child Advocacy. Those two considerably. They're very excited about us doing this.
I move we recommend it. I don't, just looking at it, I don't have, if I have any other questions, I can ask them tomorrow night. But I mean, on the surface, I don't see a problem at all with it.
I would second it.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Okay, do a voice vote on this. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else? Make the motion that we adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.